Okay, so for the longest time, people have been comparing the Narutoverse to the Dragon Ball universe, and kind of comparing and contrasting the main characters and who would win in which fight and which scenario. Now, if you're taking, for example, Dragon Ball Z and you're taking Naruto Shippuden, it's not really a fair comparison because they're both, in their own universes, they're very powerful, but if you kind of pit them up against each other, a lot of the feats don't really transfer over. Like, Goku's scaling has been pretty controversial, but even if you extremely lowball him, he's still universal level, whereas if you highball Naruto, he still wouldn't be quite on that level, you know what I mean? Debatably, some of Naruto's best feats include, you know, fighting against Toneri on the moon, you know, doing some serious damage, whereas in Dragon Ball, you see Vegeta, which you know is fodder to Goku at the end of Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. It's literally millions of times weaker. Vegeta in the beginning of Dragon Ball can casually, you know, blow up planets. If you even farther back from Dragon Ball Z to Dragon Ball, you see that characters back then are able to blow up the moon, which is comparable to the Naruto feat that we were talking about with Toneri. So, I mean, it's not really a fair comparison in that sense, but if you take it a step back, you take Goku from Dragon Ball and Naruto from Part 1, now we get something that's much closer. These characters have not yet achieved this insane level of power, right? There's going to be two parts of this video. We're going to talk about them in their base forms, and then we're going to talk about them amplified by the Uzaru and the Nine-Tails Chakra Cloaks. And we're also going to be breaking each half kind of into three different sections, I guess you could say subsections. Power, speed, and intelligence, right? Let's start off with the one that takes the most time to kind of talk about the power. Let's start off with Goku, right? So towards the beginning of Dragon Ball, before Goku actually trains with Roshi, you can see that he can crush rocks. He is strong enough to pick up a car and throw it. He can knock Yamcha into a crater. He can do some serious damage with his Kamehameha. After his training with Roshi, he gets serious buffs. He can tank a rocket. He gets hit by sniper rifles and gets hurt, but it leaves no wounds. He shatters Tao's sword, which was slicing right through trees. And if you want to take him way later, he can scale to Roshi, which literally blew up the moon with his Kamehameha. So if you take that into perspective, Kid Goku has some serious power too. Obviously, it's nothing to what comes later on. Now, Naruto, under the power category, he has his own feats, but you gotta look for them a little bit harder because it's not as in your face as it is in Dragon Ball. Because Dragon Ball, it's all about literally physically getting stronger, right? You don't see the characters gain a ton of abilities throughout the course of the series. They get a couple, but it's mainly about physically getting stronger. Naruto's more about more plot-oriented, more jutsu-oriented. Although Naruto doesn't have a lot of jutsus as well, he also gets more physically powerful. But if we kind of look for some of the Naruto Part 1 feats, we see that Naruto punches Haku enough to shatter his ice mirrors. He can hold open the giant snake's mouth. He can kick Gaara out of his Jinchuriki form. And some of the best ones that you see of Part 1 Naruto that are more in your face about his feats and his abilities to their max at that point in time is mainly in the Valley of the End. You see some pretty crazy stuff that he doesn't really compare to towards the beginning of the series. Like, you see him throw Sasuke into a mountain so hard that it breaks the mountain. Not entirely though. It more creates a crater. He one punches Sasuke across the Valley of the End and breaks all the surrounding rocks. He also takes those hits as well. So not only can he dish that kind of power, he can also take it as well. And you can't forget about his signature ability, the Rasengan. You got the Shadow Clone Jutsu. Well, Goku has the Kamehameha, and he has the After Image technique and the Solar Flare. They both don't have really large arsenals, but they have enough. Also, Naruto has this decent chakra control. He can walk on water, and he knows the basic fundamentals. And if you look at their specific abilities, because something that we notice about Dragon Ball is that the power of the characters is not necessarily the power of their abilities. Like, if we jump a little bit farther in Dragon Ball Z, just for an example, we see that Raditz has a much higher power level than Goku and Piccolo, yet Piccolo is able to kill Raditz by using an ability stronger than his own power level, you know what I mean? By increasing his power level and putting all his energy into an attack that can surpass Raditz's overall power level, you know what I mean? So it's safe to say that usually the individual abilities, the Ki Blast oriented abilities, are stronger than the individual person themselves, in most cases. In Naruto is probably something similar, but it's a little bit less clear. We know that Naruto's Rasengan is able to kind of obliterate the back of a water tower, and that's before the Valley of the End, so we're kind of taking them towards the end. I'm not going to take Goku from after the time skip, obviously, because he's not even a kid anymore. We're talking about Kid Naruto versus Kid Goku, but all in all, if we kind of compare their main feats and their abilities, I'm probably gonna have to give this one to Kid Goku. It would be much closer if Goku didn't scale to Roshi, which blew up the moon. If we knew that, if that was kind of out of the question, because that's just such an arbitrary feat. If we took that out of the question, it would honestly be much closer, because besides that, Goku mainly has, you know, like wall level feats. We know that he's obviously stronger than that, but that's kind of the stuff they shows, you know, little like small mountain wall level feats, which scales much more nicely when in comparison to Naruto. If Naruto had a more arbitrary feat like that kind of stood out, then it would be a little bit more fair, but in this sense we would say that the power category probably goes to Kid Goku. Now moving on to speed. Speed is something that also Dragon Ball likes to shove in your face a bit too. But the main ones that kind of stand out for Goku are some minor things, you know what I mean? Like the fact that he can deflect bullets from behind. You know, he's so fast that he leaves after images of himself when he's moving. You know what I mean? He can see people perform abilities so fast that the normal spectator can't even register it. So he's definitely very, very fast. I could try to scale him to the speed of light by the after image technique, but I think that would be a little bit of a highball. And most of the time we don't see him casually moving the speed of light. But we can say that he's very, very fast. He's definitely faster than the speed of sound. We'll leave him around there. A lot of the abilities that a lot of the speed feats that he has are very similar. Obviously, we have the ones in the beginning of Dragon Ball, you know, when he runs like the 100 meters in like 8 seconds. But obviously, that was before the training. After the training, he gets exponentially faster. But then again, we also have to compare movement speed to combat speed. We know that was his movement speed, that was his physical running speed. But when you're in a fight, especially in shows, in anime and shows like this, you can tend to move much faster during the fight, and you usually have a faster combat speed than movement speed. So now let's kind of look at Naruto, because I feel like Naruto's speed feats are not as clear. We know that he's able to tag Haku with the demon ice crystal mirrors, but that is obviously with the Nine Tails chakra cloak, which we're not going to kind of be considering here. He can blitz Sasuke with the Nine Tails cloak. Again, that's with the cloak. Now, one of the best ways that I think would be able to scale Shippuden Naruto is if we can scale him to Sasuke, because obviously they were pretty much on par, you know, physically and strength-wise and through their speed. And we know that Sasuke is at this point faster than Rock Lee was when he imitated his abilities, because obviously Sasuke got stronger, and Sasuke was about Lee's speed back then during the Chunin exams, but this is post-Chunin exams. Now, I've seen a lot of people try to scale exactly how fast Lee is by looking at the individual frames of how far he moved in a certain amount of time, and this may seem to work on paper, but I kind of really don't want to stick to that, because I feel like that's basically for animation purposes and for simplicity, and a lot of times when you try to compare exact measurements, it can become a little bit unclear when you talk about how far a character moves in a certain amount of time, unless it's explicitly stated. But we can try to assume that Rock Lee is, in the fight against Gaara, is nearing the speed of sound. So if you kind of keep that in mind, if you ignore the Rock Lee scaling, you would definitely say that Goku is faster. But if you kind of take that into consideration, it kind of balances out a little bit better. So I would still say that, because it's a little bit more shoved in your face with Goku, Kid Goku, than Kid Naruto, and we have more feats to go off of, specifically speed related. I would say that probably that Goku's probably a little bit faster here, but I feel like this is a little bit closer than the power gap that they have between them. Now, moving on to intelligence. Goku is not the brightest bulb. He's not very smart, but he's not very smart in general, but when we're talking specifically about combat, you know, he has a couple brain cells. You know, he was able to copy a Kamehameha from Master Roshi after seeing it performed only once, while it took Master Roshi literally 50 years to master it. So he is a very fast learner, but he's not the brightest bulb, and he doesn't really think his strategies through very well. You know, he kind of just likes to fight people and get stronger, you know, and fight stronger opponents. Naruto is also not one of the brightest bulbs, but that's in his own universe, and you know that people are, overall, they're more intelligent than they are in Dragon Ball. Like, and it's more strategy-oriented and less power-oriented. Like, you have that feat with Naruto and Sasuke during the Land of Waves against Zabuza, without any planning whatsoever, and without even communication, they managed to free Kakashi of the water prison and complete some like 9,000 level IQ play where he like turned himself into a shadow clone and had himself thrown, but he was also like the shadow of the shuriken that he threw, that Sasuke threw. It's kind of confusing to explain, but it was a very, very smart plan, and so we know that Kid Naruto is capable of some strategy. So here I think it's definitely clear that Naruto definitely has the upper hand. Now, if we kind of balance out all these three areas and aspects, it's kind of clear that Kid Goku kind of has the upper hand, although it is not as drastic as if you took them in Dragon Ball Z versus Shippuden. That's kind of like a night and day difference. Here it's to the point where it could almost go either way, but still Goku takes the cake on this one. Now we're going to be talking about their amplifiers, the Ninetales Chakra Cloak versus the Oozaru Boost, right? Now, unfortunately to say, I think this widens the gap a little bit, because we know we don't have a lot of individual feats from Kid Goku Oozaru, besides him, like, you know, destroying Pilaf's tower and like some stuff that he does here and there. But we know that the Oozaru boost is 10 times. So whatever he was before, he's 10 times more powerful. So if you take the amount of power to blow up the moon and you multiply that by 10, it's still not quite planetary level. But, you know, he's definitely approaching there, because, you know, you see a lot of scenes in like Dragon Ball Z, for example. You see a bunch of the Saiyans and the Oozarus blowing up and destroying planets, but obviously I don't think Kid Goku even with the Oozaru is not quite planetary yet, but he is 10 times stronger than that initial base form that you have. And I believe this also applies to speed, but it's kind of interesting because we never see any Great Apes blitz. So just to be safe, I'll say that he's around the same speed. And we take Naruto. Naruto actually, I feel like, benefits definitely a lot more from speed, where he's able to, you know, blitz Haku, which her, you know, her ice mirrors were allowing her to move literally the speed of light. So I feel like speed-wise in the amps category, I think we might have to give that one to Naruto, unless you give Goku a 10 times speed boost as well, which I guess on paper makes sense, but I've never really seen a scene where an Oozaru blitzes someone. Power, obviously Naruto has his own powers as well, has his own power amps, and he has access to the Ninetales, you know, Chakra Cloak, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have the full access to the full Ninetales abilities, and even if he did, he still would possibly be, you know, borderline, you know, moon level, like we see the fight against Toneri. Now, I know that's something that not a lot of people want to hear, but that's just my personal opinion. I could be a little bit wrong on this one, but I think overall, like, big picture, I still think Oozaru Kid Goku would defeat QB Amped Kid Naruto, and we move back into intelligence. You thought Goku was done before. He literally doesn't have a brain when he's in Oozaru state. Like, we also know that Kid Naruto, when he enters his Chakra Cloak, he kind of, you know, he loses focus, he becomes kind of filled with rage. So we have two kind of non-reasoning people, but if you had to pick one that was a little bit smarter out of the two in this scenario, it would definitely be Naruto, because Goku literally is a giant gorilla at this point. So I hope this clarified some stuff for you. Overall, like, all in all, it's kind of clear that Kid Goku is a little bit more powerful. I think soon I'm going to be discussing what if Kid Goku was in Naruto, now that we've kind of have an idea of where they stand against each other. And it's closer than you would think. But yeah, if you want to see that video coming up, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you like more videos like this, don't forget to let me know. Let me know any videos I should be doing in the future. Don't forget to check out that Anime-Wrld Hoodie and my other channel, XODG, and I'll catch you in the next one.